Hey everyone, it's me, Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this here's the Commander's Brew.
This week, spam.
Welcome back to the Commander's Brew.
Welcome back, everybody.
Episode 54.
54.
This might be the most mysterious title we've ever had.
Spam.
Spam.
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Well, you might think it means pressed meat.
Pressed meat.
Isn't it pressed?
Actually, if you look at the, if you're watching our YouTube video, you'll see the image of Spam, and it's chopped pork and ham, and then for sure pressed.
It's like the Pringles of meat.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Pringles is just chopped up potatoes and then pressed into one big thing.
With like a bunch of ingredients added in for flavor and like glue.
Pringles is actually flakes, right? Dried potato flakes.
But then pressed into a chip.
Pressed,
Yeah.
Welcome to this episode. We're doing Spam.
Yeah,
you don't know what that means just yet.
We don't mean meat.
We don't mean meat, despite what the image to our right.
So you're looking at it. It's on your screen's right, which is our left.
It's our left.
Yes,
so stage
yes.
left.
Stage left from our point of view.
That's right. Spam. What we're going to do with this one is what we do with everyone. First of all, we're going to brew on this theme, which is Spam.
Spam is the theme.
We're going to use a budget,
$50 or less.
a hard budget of $50 US dollars or less,
USD.
even though we're Canadian. And we got two takes. We got two different versions of the same theme.
Different flavors of Spam, if you will.
That's right. Are there different flavors of Spam? There
must be like a spiced Spam.
There's got to be there's got to be a hot Spam.
No. Hot Spam.
Hot Spam.
Oh, gross.
Oh, it's so gross.
Ugh.
But Spam isn't so gross.
No,
it's just
you know
a
what?
salty ham like meat.
I've eaten it. Like my grandmother used to serve us Click, which is a Spam.
I feel like that's a Canadian Spam.
Maybe?
Is it?
I don't know.
Do they have Click in the United States?
It's spelled K-L-I-K.
Yeah.
No C's.
Let us know. Reach out to us on Twitter and let us know if
Yeah.
Click exists in the
Tweeted
us
us at Commander's Brew if you've eaten Click.
or anywhere else for that matter, Australia or the UK or whatever.
Yeah. Sweden.
Yeah, of course.
I bet you the Swedes have a lot of weird meat.
Yeah, why do you bet that?
Because I know that, like, in Scandinavia, they like weird fermented fish and stuff like that.
That's true.
So, like, maybe Spam wouldn't be so crazy. Or maybe it's so processed that only North America will touch it.
Where I'm originally from, Newfoundland, we get a lot of Scandinavian and European foods just because for years we were a British colony. We weren't technically part of Canada.
Right.
Like right up to like the 50s or something.
Yeah.
So, a lot of those traditions of like eating that type of food is still strong in Newfoundland. Like, so we get a lot of like, first of all, we have a lot of Norwegian and Swedish, like plants because the Vikings landed in Newfoundland, and like so we have like what's called cloudberries, and you can get them at IKEA, right? Like cloudberry and lingonberries.
Oh yeah,
those are in Newfoundland because the Vikings brought them there.
Cool.
And but they have different names in Newfoundland. They're called bake apples and partridge berries.
Bake apples.
Isn't it weird that they're called bake apples? Cloudberries are called that.
Yeah, cool.
Anyways, so what I was saying is that like I know what you're talking about because we have a lot of fermented fish dishes also there.
Yeah.
So I get that. Okay, good point. So anyways, do you want to tell them what Spam is about, or do the ad first?
Well, let's save the mystery. Let's do the Wizard's Tower ad.
Here it is, wizardtower.com.
Hi, come on down to the Handweir Diner, where we've got specials all the time. Our special today is the tuna meld. No, you heard me correctly. I didn't say tuna melt, I said tuna meld. It's a fish sandwich from the Drown Yard melded with bread and cheddar cheese. It's delicious. We got another special too. It's from the Wizard's Tower, wizardtower.com. The special is order singles $15 or more in Canada, $10 or more in the US, and you get free shipping. Also, use the coupon code Tower of Brews to get an extra 5% off, and they'll give you 3% kickback towards your next order. Don't wait. Come on now while you can before Handware turns into a writhing, pulsating mass of things and we don't get to do our restaurant anymore.
Yeah, you better get those orders in, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, did the garrison already show up?
That's the question.
If the battlement's there, presumably this diner is in the battlement.
Yeah.
And if the garrison showed up, that thing's writhing.
At any rate, whether you're at the Handware Diner or at the Wizard's Tower, get your orders in.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Get your orders in.
Yeah. Get them in.
Wizard's Tower is in no danger of turning into a writhing online store ship.
We hope.
We hope.
We don't know for sure.
We don't know for
There's
sure.
a possibility. There could be some tuna melds going on there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So we've left you waiting long enough, I think.
So, the other common use for the term spam is like repeated email stuff.
Right. And repeated whatever it seems nowadays, right?
Yes.
So if you spam something, you do the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, like it's a good idea every morning to spam 20 sit-ups.
I'm not sure that's exactly the same terminology there, but yes, it is a good idea.
Yeah, every morning just spam a few sit-ups.
Just spam some sit-ups, You know what I love doing when I go eating at like a Chinese restaurant or even a sushi place? I have to spam rice. I spam grains of rice like crazy. I love it.
Yeah, like 100 of them.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
at a
man.
time, like easy.
Yeah.
I'll spam 1,000 of those little masks.
Yeah. When I'm thirsty, I like to spam a glass of water.
Yeah, I'll spam glasses of water.
I like to spam sips of water.
yeah. So we're spamming one thing.
Yes, we're spamming a card or a thing or a creature or whatever. That was the idea over and over and over and over.
Exactly.
And getting the benefit over and over and over and
And there's
over.
probably there are a lot of decks that do this. I think that are just good at this in general, just in Commander. I think there's lots of modern and like lots of competitive decks have probably done this in the past.
Oh, sure.
I can't name any off the top of my head because I'm not super familiar with those formats, but this one's fun. So what did we do? What are we trying
All
to
right.
spam?
So I built a deck all around spamming Grey Merchant of Asphodel, Gary.
Gary, as we are,
Right? As we all know,
as we know him.
3 black, 2/4 zombie. When Grey Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. Number of black pips. So, spamming him's great. So, like, every time you spam him, if you can drain everyone for 10, great. Spam him 4 times, you win the game.
It's pretty great, right? And I think we've talked about Alistair's Chainer deck, which
Yes.
kind of is a great, fun mono black like reanimator deck. That if he gets Grey Merchant, the game's over because he just spams that.
It becomes a Grey Merchant spam. So I tried to build a deck where that's the whole point.
The whole point of it.
The whole point is spamming Gary.
And who did you use as your actual commander? Because obviously Gary's not a commander.
No, we're going to want mono black to get the maximum number of black pips. So
Right.
Sidisi, Undead Vizier.
Yep.
3, black, legendary zombie Naga. 4/6 with Death Touch, and it's got Exploit. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature, and when Sidisi exploits a creature, you may search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library.
Wow.
Search for Gary. We're gonna
Perfect.
and we'll probably exploit Sidisi to herself, so that we can tutor another card to help get Gary back out of the graveyard, or to help get him again, or to just keep that train rolling. We can't do that if she's on the battlefield.
Would you say that you would probably save her usages because she's probably going to exploit herself just to get Gary whenever?
Yeah, that's the only
Like
thing
the
I
times you
cast
need to
her
get
for.
him, right?
Yeah.
And then you would need to get like the things that bring him back and stuff. Like
Yeah.
you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So that's
there's only one Gary, but there's lots of things to bring him back. So I
Right.
probably only need to cast Sidisi once.
really great. I love that. It's so built into the commander that to fit this theme. It's perfect.
Perfect.
I had a hard time deciding what I was going to do. Right, like green is my favorite color in Magic, so I thought maybe something with green. We mentioned Avenger of Zendikar, perhaps.
Yeah, pretty good
which is a
spam.
great creature to spam. But instead of doing that, I decided to go with, I think, maybe the most beloved creature in Commander, in EDH. I think maybe.
Go on.
You don't hear anyone speaking about this card negatively ever. It's Mulldrifter.
Mulldrifter.
Right? Who's
Mully,
ever
mully,
said an
mully.
unkind word about Mulldrifter? Never. Anyone. Ever.
Nobody.
No one. Mulldrifter, in case you somehow don't know, Mulldrifter is 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a 2/2 flying elemental that says when Mulldrifter enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. Also, it has Evoke for 2 and a blue. So it's a divination if you want it to be, or it's this great enter the battlefield, one of the best enter the battlefield creatures. Draw 2 cards when it enters. It's so good.
So good.
So I took this one and again was at first was like, oh, let's go mono blue, like because Sean's going mono black. I knew, and you can do what you want to do with mono blue. I mean, that's a fun rhyme.
You can do what you want to do
with mono blue. Yeah, but it's hard to get the card right. I mean, that also rhymes. What's happening to me right now?
Oh man,
it's hard to get the card, but you can do what you want to do.
You're transforming into maybe we're in a musical.
Maybe we are.
And you're
wow.
about to
and
break into song.
I keep stopping it every time it's about to break into song.
Yeah.
So I had to introduce some other colors, and then there was a little more of a strategy switch that made me switch into Sultai. And I went with the Mimeoplasm, but oddly enough, for budget reasons, if you wanted to pick, because Mimeoplasm is a little expensive, and but for budget reasons, you can pick the other Sidisi. This could also be our Sidisi episode,
Ooh,
which is kind of funny, right?
It could.
So, anyways, I went with Mimeoplasm just because it can be another copy of Mulldrifter, basically. So, but as a Mimeoplasm enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 creature cards from graveyards. If you do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the power of the other cards. This one can be a big Mulldrifter. It's 2 in Sultai, so 2 green, blue, black. Basically, a lot of the creatures in here we're going to copy. We're going to clone. That's what blue wants to do. Black likes to recur from the graveyard, so I left that kind of up to you. Whereas on our side, of Mulldrifter side, we're going to make a lot of copies and clones of it and stuff.
I like it.
I think we picked 2 pretty wicked cards to spam.
Yeah, man. And you know what?
2 of the ones you want to spam the most in Commander, I think.
And I already know that I want to do this as a theme again someday with 2 different things to spam.
Absolutely.
This is a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Okay, well, let's get into it. Let's see what these decks want to do.
Okay, so the game plan of Gary's spam deck is to obviously get Gary into play.
Obviously.
We want to pitch him to the graveyard because that's the easiest way we're going to spam him, by bringing him back from the graveyard.
That's what black does.
That's what we're going to do. Rinse and repeat.
Great. Well, I mean, not surprisingly, it's a very similar strategy with Mulldrifter. Obviously, get Mulldrifter into play. That's where the black comes in, and the green for that matter, being able to tutor for a creature when you need it, and just have so many Mulldrifters and just draw so many cards, and then use that card draw and your hand size specifically as a win condition. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about that, but that's what we're going to do. Sean, let's talk about Gary.
Okay, so step 1, I want to talk about ways to sack Gary. Right? Once Gary's on the battlefield, it sucks if you just got to sit there and watch him hang out on the battlefield and like, come on, I just need you to go to the graveyard so I can spam you, right? At that point, he's just like a, chicken breast, just sitting there cooked. But we want to turn
Last
him
week
into...
it was chicken legs, chicken wings as legs, and this week it's chicken breasts? What's happening?
Little secret to the listeners, we record this after lunch. But I skipped lunch today, so I got a lot of food on my brain.
I'm pretty hungry myself right now, actually.
Yeah. Anyway, right, but we want to turn him into spam, right? We don't want top quality meat. We want spam.
Yeah.
So
we want the low end of the spectrum on the meat spectrum. Yeah.
Right, and so here's a great card to do that. It's Keldrin Dead. Keldrin Dead.
Yeah.
It's a single mana for a 3/1 skeleton. When Keldrin Dead comes into play, sacrifice a creature, i.e. Gary, and for the cost of 1 black, you can regenerate Keldrin Dead. This is a one-time sack outlet, but it's very useful because once you've sacked Gary with it, it's an excellent blocker to keep you alive while you look for ways to spam Gary again.
Right, okay.
And if for some reason you just need to get him out there, we've got other things we can sack to it if you're just desperate for that defense. So this will do. This is a single mana way to sack Gary. I love it. We want cheap ways to do that, so the recursion.
Not to mention, you can recur this creature to cause more sacrifices if you really want. If somehow your board was set up to do that.
Oh, like double chain it? Yeah, for
maybe.
sure. For sure. I hadn't thought of that, but I have a few things that take advantage whenever a creature gets sacrificed. So yeah, for sure.
Cool.
For sure. Another great way to sacrifice Gary is Undercity Informer. This is a great sack outlet in black. 2 and a black for a human rogue, 2/3. And for the cost of 1 generic, no taps, sacrifice a creature. Target player reveals the cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a land card. Put those cards into his or her graveyard. You're going to hit yourself with that to get more stuff into your graveyard for more possible targets for recursion, because it is very possible that you've got way more ways to recur things than you have ways to get Gary out there. So you're like, you know what? I'm going to bring back this huge demon that has 3 black pips in it because I just want him.
Yeah, you want those pips almost just as much as you want Gary, really.
Yeah, you got to spend some of your effort getting pips.
Gotta get those pips.
Get them pips.
Gladys Knight knew it.
Yeah.
I think this is a very underrated card in EDH.
Yeah, you know what? I do too. I was looking for sacrifice outlets in mono black, and we all love Viscera Seer. I didn't mention that one because it's so classic.
Yeah.
Because it's free. It costs 1 mana to put on the table. But, like, this costs 1 generic, which is so cheap.
It's cheap, right? And you do want your free sack outlets as much as possible, right? It is definitely better.
Yeah, it's definitely better. But I'm thinking of, like, how much worse is it to be able to sacrifice your whole team on a snap versus, like, 60% of your team, right?
And get that additional bonus of the milling.
Oh,
right?
sure. That's just extra. I'm just thinking on a sack point of view. Like, you always want the most important reason for me, in my opinion, to have sack outlets is in case anyone tries to steal your stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And if they try to steal one thing, it's gone. It's not yours.
Right.
Right? So you really only need a one-shot sack most of the time. The time you're going to want the whole team sack is when people do, like, insurrection type effects, which, you know,
or
that
like
happens.
exile all creatures, which is pretty rare.
Yeah, but if they're going to... Right, but I'll go back to my argument. If you're going to exile one creature, cool. I'll sack the one creature.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I do think that as long as it's cheap, I think free is the best.
Of course.
But I think cheap is basically as good.
And the reason I think this is because of that bonus. The reason I think this is a very underrated card is because in any card that wants to fill up its library and graveyard and wants to sacrifice creatures, I really think Undercity Informer is like one of the best cards in a deck like that.
Yeah, man.
You sack a creature, you get your benefit, whatever it is you were doing, you know, is that whatever that benefit is on the board, and then you just get to pour probably like at least
3
1
cards.
or 2, probably on average close to 2 or 3.
Well, and you got to assume that any card running it is probably Golgari, so that means you're running those like search for basics, so your land density is even lower.
Could be, and that of course doesn't even count the times where you just get like 10 cards in your graveyard because of this.
Could happen.
Definitely does happen. I like this card a lot.
Underrated.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, we got one more to talk about. This is Disciple of Bolas. Great way to sack Gary. It costs 3 and a black for a 2/1 human wizard. When Disciple of Bolas enters the battlefield, sacrifice another creature, Gary. You gain X life and draw X cards where X is that creature's power. He's also a great possible recursion target. We've got a lot of large demon-type creatures with lots of pips. If we have Gary... We just need more ways to recur him. We have another sack outlet. I'm happy to cast this guy, sack a 5/5 to get a couple more ways to bring Gary back and just double it up that way. All of these sack outlets get us closer to what we want to do.
Yeah. Love this creature. I love Disciple of Bolas. And while we're talking about Gary, like, I meant to mention this in the opening, but like, why do we call him Gary again? Is it just because
remember.
It's gray and it, like, some people like looks like
Gary.
it says Gary?
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's it.
that's got to be it, right?
That's got to be it. But it's so endearing. Like, it's taken so well. I love that his name is Gary.
I love that we have a friend named Gary, and I realize that's kind of rare.
Yeah,
like
Gary is usually like
Gary's like an old guy's name.
Yeah, like
right?
a dad.
Yeah. And we have a friend named Gary who's not a dad yet. But
Do we
whenever
know something Do you?
No. That's
No?
not
Okay,
hinting
okay,
to anything. I just mean like him and his soon-to-be wife will probably have kids in the future, so not yet.
Not yet.
I always think of our friend Gary when we talk about this Gary, and it's silly to think of a real person. And I always think of like this card is this guy Gary. I just love it. I love it so much that there's like this old card salesman Gary on a magic
what?
card. You know,
We gotta alter this to put our buddy Gary, on it. He doesn't play Magic.
He doesn't play Magic, and is the
will never
furthest
play Magic.
thing from a Magic player you'll ever get.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But a very funny guy. Okay, shout out to Gary Reddit Jr. All right, let's talk about Mulldrifter a bit, though. So we got your sack outlets up there for Gary. Let's talk about Mulldrifter. Why can't we have a fun name for Mulldrifter?
Molly.
Molly. That's good. The first one for Molly will then be Mirror Mockery. Okay, so we're going to copy and clone Mulldrifter a lot. And there's obviously tons of ways to do that, clones and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
A lot of cards we've talked about on some previous episodes. We did a Lazov episode that's very close to this type of idea. Our Halloween episode, rather. So I wanted to highlight a few different ones that we don't usually get to talk about. One of them is Mirror Mockery, and this is a card that's so fun. It's 1 and a blue for an aura, and it says, whenever enchanted creature attacks, you may put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. Exile the token at the end of combat. Well, what better creature to use this on than Mulldrifter?
Yeah.
There just isn't one, right? Mirror Mockery. It's great. It also doubles in, and if you play during Cons and Dragons, you know that this card is like a pseudo removal thing. So where it's like you put it on their big creature, and then when they attack you with it, you get a copy of that creature to block it with, right?
I didn't know that's how
really?
it worked. I forgot.
That's how it was. That's how it's best used.
Yeah.
In limited.
Enchant creature, no restriction.
Right.
Bad guys included.
Yep.
Whenever enchanted creature attacks, you, the controller of the enchantment, put a token that's a copy. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean on the art, right? Like they're fighting each other.
Huh. You know
The
what?
mirror version of her.
I always assume that like if it's a positive effect, I should put it on my own creatures.
Of course, and I mean that's the other side of it. It's a mirrored card. There's two sides of it. It's great. In EDH, it doesn't. It's more of a deterrent to attacking as opposed to like a removal type effect, right? So you get, if they have a big
Hydra or something.
Oh,
wait, that won't work.
Yeah, you're right. You won't. That's the worst example possible, really.
What about like
if they have a
Titan?
big, what's it called there? The big, the
Titan.
big. Yeah, Titans are good because when they enter, they give you stuff. It's even better, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. And then you get one, so then they'll just attack someone else, but you still get the benefit of getting it. Putting it on a Titan is a great example.
Thank you.
Throw it on a Grave Titan. But yeah, we're definitely going to put this on Mulldrifter, and when our Mulldrifter attacks, we'll just get to draw 2 cards every turn. It's great. It turns Mulldrifter into a mini Titan.
Ooh.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's neat.
A Drift Titan.
Build your own Molly Titan.
Molly.
Next up is Altered Ego. This one is from Shadows over Innistrad. You're probably familiar with this one already because it's such a great card.
Yeah.
But it's what are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at the picture.
Art? Yeah, I know. I love it.
The big cartoon face just going,
This woman just shoves her head into your house and just screams at you so loud.
And I also want to know, why are they cloning her?
Yeah.
Who's she?
I guess the point is you can clone anyone and make them huge, right?
Yeah.
That's what Altered Ego does. It's X, 2 generic, a green and a blue. So there's a lot going on there. And it says it's a shapeshifter. It's a 0/0. Altered Ego can't be countered, which is cool.
Sure.
I actually totally forgot that was even on this card.
I hadn't considered it.
And then it says you may have Altered Ego enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it enters with X additional +1/+1 counters on it. So you don't even need to do the X part if you don't want. This is just a regular clone that can't be countered. That's 2 colors, right?
Yeah, it's a 4-mana clone, which is standard price.
Exactly. So if you want to just clone, great. If you want to make a bigger Mulldrifter, you can also. And just pay that additional X. So I love the flexibility on Altered Ego. Plus, I guess that can't be countered thing is just a sweet little bonus. I mean, no one's really going to counter it.
Our meta doesn't counter a lot.
A lot of creatures out of nowhere. Like I guess if I was going to if I was going to clone your Gary and I was going to win the game because of it or something, that's
sure.
when someone would counter it. But
Yeah.
so there you go. Use Altered Ego for that, I guess. But we're going to make it into a Mulldrifter. And finally, another really cool way from, again, a recent set. It's from Fate Reforged. It's Supplant Form.
Ooh.
Supplant Form is, I think, also a pretty underrated card in EDH.
Oh, for sure.
4 and 2 blue for an instant that says return target creature to its owner's hand. You put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature.
It does not say exile that token at the end.
No, you just get that.
That's yours.
You get that token. So obviously I put this in here because we're going to do it with Mulldrifter. It's great with Mulldrifter because then we get to recast our Mulldrifter and we get a lot of Mulldrifters, which is the point of this deck. But in regular Commander and outside of this deck, it's great anywhere. It's great to use on your creatures. It's really great to use as like a little combat trick.
I love this as a combat trick.
Yeah, it's really good because you get that additional blocker of whatever it is you're sending back. Plus, you get to remove. Sometimes there's creatures that the creatures are buffing something, right?
Oh,
or
yeah.
the creatures are granting them, menace or
Like
something like that. And
an archetype of aggression or something.
Exactly. And a lot of one of the downsides of those cards is that an instant speed removal card is going to stop that effect, but that's not super common in EDH, right? Combat tricks are not used a lot. So using Supplant Form in that way is also really helpful.
My favorite way to use this card is if an opponent attacks you with two pretty big things, return and copy their biggest thing, and use it to block their second biggest thing. So you've effectively taken away two of their things.
Yeah, that's good.
That's my favorite thing to do with this.
And if one of those is like a Terrastodon,
ooh, get out of here!
Get out of here!
But also, but if you're intending on using this on your own Mulldrifter, that Mulldrifter's in your hand now.
Yeah,
you get to cast it again,
exactly,
and get another hit off that ETB.
So it's just killer in any of those ETB effects because same thing as Mirror Mockery. It has that double effect. It can be used as a defensive card or an offensive card.
I like it.
I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Let's go back to Gary and his flavor of spam.
All right.
I want to talk about some insurance cards. These are cards because if someone dumps your graveyard into exile, you're done.
You're done, bud.
Right?
Yeah.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I have some insurance cards to help protect against that. These two are functionally identical. I have Foot Bottom Feast and I have Grave Purge. They're both 2 and a black for an instant that says put any number of target creature cards from your graveyard on top of your library, then draw a card. So if someone's going to purge the whole graveyard, we can just put Gary and all of my best 3-pip creatures back on top.
Nice.
So I can just go through those. Or I can just put Gary on top if they're just trying to target Gary by themselves for some reason. And then I immediately draw a card, so I'll immediately get him back to my hand. If this is like one of the last activations to sealing the deal on the win, I'll do that too.
Nice.
I'll just spend 3 mana to get Gary back from the graveyard, cast him straight away, and then just win that way.
That's good, yeah.
There's a cousin of this card called Bone Harvest, also instant, but Bone Harvest...
Oops.
Do we miss Bone Harvest?
I missed it, my bad.
I don't know,
Keep
that's
talking.
just for the YouTube people. But Bone Harvest is basically the same thing, except you draw a card during the next upkeep. So you don't draw a card immediately, you draw during your next upkeep. I mean, still pretty good. And that's the next turn's upkeep, not just your upkeep. So
it's still kind of like end of turn, essentially.
Kind of end of turn, so you can't cast it again in your main phase. But I will say this. I have plenty of cards in here that say that whenever you sack a creature or whenever a creature dies, etc., you get to draw a card. So there's lots of ways in this deck to just draw extra cards. So even if you have to use Bone Harvest as one, which I'm happy to do, I can force a draw to get Gary back in my hand that turn anyway, if I need to.
Neat. Sort of to help with this, have you thought about Orbs of Warding?
I thought about those too, yeah, so that they can't... Yeah, you know what?
I always put those in, or that one in. I don't use the other one, the Witchbane Orb, I think it's called. But Orbs of Warding is a great card for any graveyard deck. I've talked about it on the show before. It gives you hexproof. So it's very hard for people to exile your graveyard, because most things that exile graveyards as a whole will target the player, right?
You target a player, and that player exiles my
player's
graveyard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't target my graveyard if I got my orbs up. You
Exactly.
know what? I didn't, but I should. Orbs of Warding should be in this deck.
I've had it out in a game where I was playing a Duretti artifact graveyard thing, and it does it. It does the trick.
Yeah.
Because I think we had someone who had like a
Tormod's Crypt is in our meta.
Yeah, we had someone with one of those out, and it was like, ha!
Bojuka
It's
Bog.
working. It's doing its thing.
Yeah.
I loved it. Anyways,
It just has to do it once. You know what? That's a great. And this category is insurance. There's no better insurance.
yeah.
Okay. So here's another insurance card. It costs the same. Costs 3 and a black to activate, but it's Corpse Hauler. 1 and a black for a 2/1 creature, and its activated ability 2 and a black, same as Grave Purge, Foot Bottom Feast, all those things. Sacrifice Corpse Hauler. Return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. This is just another way to get Gary back.
Yep.
But the reason it's in here is because you can do that at instant speed, right?
Yep.
It's key. A lot of the spells that bring creatures back are sorceries, which is not insurance. Sorcery
Correct.
speed is
Yeah.
not insurance.
It's
So
not
like
insurance,
this is another way to do that. This is another way to do that.
Another great thing about this card, just this ability being on a creature, is obviously very good for when you want to recur. It's easier to recur creatures
Yes.
than spells, so obviously Corpse Hauler, you get that added ability there
Yeah.
as well. Nice. All right, so let's take a look at Mulldrifter. So we got our copy, our cloning of Mulldrifter. When we do this, we're obviously going to be drawing a lot of cards, right?
Yep.
Mulldrifter says draw 2 whenever it enters the battlefield. Well, let's go extra hard on drawing cards, right? Let's go all in on drawing cards.
In it to win it.
In it to win it, and then we'll have that payoff in a sec. But in the meantime, let's see how else we're going to draw cards. Mystic Remora. We've talked about this card on the show before. Our good friend Alistair Forbes brought this to our attention in our actual paper play group, where it's been a constant thorn in our sides.
Thorn.
Thorn for sure.
Thorn.
Because you're like, oh, eventually the cumulative upkeep will get him. But then it's like, no, it's worth it for him to keep it around, and it never goes away. So what it is, again, we've talked about it before, but it's a 1 mana enchantment. It costs 1 blue. And it has
measly blue.
measly blue. And it has a cumulative upkeep of 1 generic. So that means you pay 1, then you put like these counters on it, and then you pay 2 next turn, you pay 3, so blah, blah, blah.
But the first turn, like, it has 0. So like,
Oh, yeah.
one
So-
cycle run, you're only paying 1.
Yeah. It says, though, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 4. So it basically says whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card.
Oh yeah, basically.
Because hardly ever have I seen it where people will pay the 4. I've done it before just because I didn't have anything else to do that turn.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the only time I've seen anyone pay for the extra for Mystic Remora.
Yeah.
And it was me, and it was mostly out of spite.
Oh man, you'll get spite payments.
Oh, you'll
for
get
sure.
a few spite payments, but it really does pay off because if you think about it, in a 5-player game, even in a 4-player game, you get a lot of people casting non-creature spells. Of course, cast your ramp spells. That green player, he's not going to pay that extra 4. He wants to ramp up as quickly as possible. He doesn't care if you're drawing cards. So Mystic Remora will
Oh man,
always draw you the cards that you want out of it and more. And even when you get up to the point where you're paying 4 or 5, this card is still pretty much worth it, I think. Depending on what else is going on in your hand, obviously, but
Yeah.
you can really keep this around for a long time, and then when you don't, guess what? Peace, it's gone.
like in my mind, I kind of justify it like, how many cards you want out of this? I want 5 cards out of it. How many cycles are on the table till you get 5 cards? Maybe 3, 4.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4. Yeah.
So I'm total out 3 during my upkeep at the most, while I'm getting my last cards. But then if I've like, I've drawn a lot of cards, I'm good. Bye bye.
Yeah, exactly. You can even just have the 2 go-arounds rather, and pay a total of 3. You're paying a total of 4, but it's over 3 turns, which was what makes it so good. So, Mystic Remora is a great card.
Remora.
And it's a true find. Like, I love it, right? Like we said before, like this is probably was supposed to be a creature or something, because it's like
It looks like Mulldrifter.
it does. It looks like a lot like Mulldrifter. It's a little fish thing with a little like sneaker sole on its head.
With a boot tread on its head. Yeah.
So that's a good one. Another way to draw lots of cards. A card that I don't see played a lot, but I see cards like it played a lot. It's Dictate of Krufix. 1 and 2 blue for an enchantment with flash. And it says at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. So I was going to put Howling Mine in this deck because let's all just draw, and I'll draw as well. It'd
That's
be great.
what this does.
And that's what this does. But the flash ability is what put it over the top for me, and the reason why I wanted it.
Oh yeah, so that you get first dibs.
Exactly. I'll flash this in on my opponent's end step, and then I'll get to draw the extra card first. And then after that, everybody keeps drawing, and then it's great.
Get in line behind me, everybody.
Exactly.
Don't get in line in front of me.
Howling Mine gives it to everybody else first, and then you. But this is way better.
Howling Mine is the gentleman's version of the card.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, Dictator Kruvix is the selfish, buttholes version.
Yo, out of my way, me first.
Yeah. So I don't mind that people are going to draw lots of cards. Honestly, it's fine. It actually kind of these abilities. Whenever you have a Nekisar player at the table, it always helps. It always makes for an exciting game when people are drawing lots of cards.
Yeah,
right?
man.
So I don't mind it.
I almost would be like, would you want to change how you build decks? You probably would to a degree. But what if you just randomly did what, tonight, guys, every draw step is 2.
Oh, wow.
Like just for kicks. Like every draw step, 2 cards.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that would be very interesting, I'm sure. I mean, it's basically that's exactly what this card is, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Dictator Kruvix, cool card. Don't see it run as much as I think some decks actually want it.
As much as we should.
Yeah. Finally, drawing extra cards, Prime Speaker Zagana. I love this card so much. One of my first commander decks was Prime Speaker Zagana. It's 2 generic, 2 green, and 2 blue, so 6 in total for a 1/1. That stinks. She's a Merfolk wizard. She's legendary. She can be your commander. But what she says is Prime Speaker Zagana enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. So maybe you got down that Altered Ego, added a few counters.
Yeah.
Now it's a 5/5 or a 6/6 Mulldrifter. Well, guess what? Now Prime Speaker Zagana will enter as that 6/6 +1 because it's a 1/1, so you'll draw 7 cards because when Prime Speaker Zagana enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to its power. So you will always draw 1 if she's the only creature. I have done that before. I have cast her to draw 1 card, and it does not feel good.
No,
it's a bad feeling.
Yeah.
But if even once you get up into the 2, 3, 4 power, that's where you're happy. And then if you have something really big, which you definitely can have happen in this deck, Prime Speaker Zagana is great. Enter the battlefield ability also, which is also something that this deck can abuse.
Oh, wow.
Because if you're cloning Prime Speaker Zagana too, guess what? They keep getting bigger.
Oh, man, you've got so many cards, Andy.
I mean, they're legendary, so you only get one of them. But still, great.
Okay, let's go back to Gary's team.
Yes.
It's all about devotion, right?
Gotta get them pips.
Gotta get them pips. Let's talk about some great pips. Baleful Force.
Ooh.
5, black. That's 3 pips. It's an elemental. It's a 7/7. At the beginning of each upkeep, you draw a card and you lose 1 life.
Ooh.
At the beginning of each upkeep. So that's my upkeep, player 2's upkeep, player 3's upkeep, player 4's upkeep. So, Dictative Kruvix says everyone gets to draw an extra card. Baleful Force says I draw 4 times the cards that you draw.
Yeah, wow.
And paying that 1 life per card is no big deal because Gary is going to drain everyone for 10 to 15 and you're going to gain 30 to 45.
Yeah.
So paying a few life here or there, no probs.
Think about it. Even if you just cast Gary in a 5-player game, that's 2.
On an empty board.
So that's 8 life that you're going to gain. So that's 8 extra cards from Baleful Force without even feeling it.
Well, I mean, you'd have to have Baleful Force. So
that's what I mean.
Assume the 3.
I mean, afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
If you cast Baleful Force after.
Yeah. The life penalty for this should be no problem. I did a couple of tester games of how this works, and it's life gets into the hundreds sometimes.
Wow.
Right? It happens.
Yikes.
It's nuts. So that guy's amazing. 3 pips. Big fan. Let's talk about Phylactery Lich.
Ooh.
Black. No generic.
Ooh.
3 pure pips.
All pips.
Zombie, 5/5. It's a 5/5 also. As Phylactery Lich enters the battlefield, put a Phylactery counter on an artifact you control. Phylactery Lich is indestructible. When you control no permanents with Phylactery counters on them, sacrifice Phylactery Lich. So you got to put it on an artifact. We got plenty of artifacts. We got plenty of little mana rocks, little things that signet. No, not signets, but other mana rocks, sack outlet artifacts, that kind of thing. So there's always going to be this card is dead when you have no artifacts out.
Right.
So right after a Vandal Blast, that sucks but you're likely going to put this on something that shouldn't draw a ton of artifact hate.
Right.
Right?
Put on a Mind Stone or a...
Yeah. Right? Or my favorite target is a Dark Steel Ingot, because that's already also indestructible.
Yeah, that's
so it's
perfect.
like,
Yep.
what are you going to do? How are you going to get rid of this Phylactery Lich? You're not. 3 pips forever.
I've often looked at this card and been like, this is like, obviously this was pushed for whatever format, right? That I don't even think it worked. Like
I don't know.
I've never heard of this card being played in any competitive format. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't think so because of how cheap it is.
yeah, exactly, right? So, but this is a 5/5 for 3. You just need to have an artifact out first, like
Yeah. And so the reason I think this is great in the deck, because 5/5 on the ground is really good defense,
yeah,
right?
it is, yeah.
We do need to protect ourselves because we're going to be gaining a lot of life. We're going to put a bit of a target on our back while we're going off. So like we want to make sure people don't mess with us.
I mean, you have the life gain as a cushion.
As a cushion, but
Like you said, it can get into the hundreds.
but it gets scary. Like when people see that happening, like, oh, we got to attack this guy, right? Like we
Right.
can't, you're already up to 60 life. We got to go after this guy, right?
And of course, there's commander damage. You gotta defend, right?
Yeah. So I like that. I like them pips. And then another great card for pips is Underworld Connection. 1 black. Enchantment, enchant land. Target land has tap, pay 1 life, draw a card, right? This is a way to get through more cards. We want to draw more cards. We want to get to those ways to recur Gary more and faster and faster. And this is an enchantment on a land, so it's a little tougher to destroy than your average creature. Most Wraths aren't going to get this.
True.
Very little targeted land destruction in our meta anyway.
Yep.
So these are 2 pips that are probably not going to leave the game.
Yeah, it's pretty safe to keep an Underworld Connections around for quite a while, anyways, in a game.
And again, that 1 life payment, not a payment.
Not a problem. Not a problem. You'll happily pay that. Okay, that's a way to draw cards.
Yeah.
We just looked at a lot of ways to draw cards with Mulldrifter, and
Yeah.
Mulldrifter is going to draw a lot of cards itself. Now, how are we going to take advantage of those?
Yeah.
Like it's great to draw lots of cards, but then if you have nothing to do with them, you didn't do anything.
yeah.
Really.
How do you close the deal?
So we got to hurt them with the hand size, is what I called it.
Yeah.
So one way to do that is with Morrows, and no, not with Mark Rosewaters, although I'm sure that would do something. Morrow is like a creature, not a creature type, but like a creature. I don't know what you'd call it, because there's a bunch of Morrows, but they're not like, it's not in their actual subtype, like creature
Sure.
type, but it should be, because there's a bunch of them. Anyways, Multani is the king of them all. Multani Morrow Sorcerer. He's 4 and 2 green, so a 6 mana star legendary elemental. He has Shroud, which is cool, and the classic Morrow ability is Multani Morrow Sorcerer's power and toughness are each equal to the total number of cards in all players' hands. So actually, Multani is like better than your average Morrow, because there's one that's just called Morrow, I think, and it's just the cards in your hand.
Okay.
But this guy is in everyone's hand, so he's going to be very large, hopefully.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not going to run through them here, but I also run a bunch of the cards that make it so that you don't have a maximum hand size.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need those.
Essential.
Yeah. So there's like Library of Lang and whatever else. There's a bunch of stuff that does it. What's the recent one?
Oh shoot! It's a little artifact.
Yeah, the little one that came with the most recent Commander.
That one
decks.
might be. That's getting expensive.
It's like pushing $2, I think.
$2.
At this
It's
point.
a lot for
Thought
a mana
Vessel.
rock.
Thought Vessel. it's
Thought
called.
Vessel.
Anyway, so that's a way we're going to make this always be more than 7, hopefully. So Multani Morrow Sorcerer is a great way to do it. Another great way to do it, is Sora Morrow, First to Dream. It's 4 and 2 blue for a legendary spirit with flying, and it says Sora Morrow, First to Dream's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. Then it says pay 4 generic, return a land you control to its owner's hand, draw a card. So at instant speed, Sora Morrow can become 2 bigger, and all your creatures that care about number of cards in your hand become 2 bigger, because you return that land and you draw a card.
Yeah,
right?
that's the 2.
And in any deck with green being involved, usually returning a land is not really that big a deal, because we got a lot of ramp going on. We got a lot of stuff out. The fact that this one has flying is really great. I actually considered making him my commander for this deck. Like when I was talking about doing mono blue, I thought Soramaru might be really great. But actually, you need the green for the other Maros. Get it? Soramaru. See? It's in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a weird little thing that they do. It's like a nod to Mark Rosewater somehow. Okay, so Soramaru is really good. And maybe the best one of these, though, is Overbeing of Myth. This one is 5 Simic hybrid mana. So you can pay any combination of blue or green mana for this. It's a star, same thing. It's a spirit avatar. Overbeing of Myth's power and toughness reach equal to the number of cards in your hand. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card.
Ooh, wee.
So this one does both. This is your card draw. This is your huge creature. The benefit from that card draw.
Wow.
And there's a lot of these guys. There's also, there's the ones that get +1/+1 counters when you draw cards. There's that sort of thing. So there's enough creatures that are built around hand size, drawing cards, that they become big beasts real quick and are very good.
Amazing.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun to have like your whole, it's not so much a control deck as it is this weird like mid-range thing that you're going for. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
And it just feels so good to draw cards.
It really does.
You always got options.
You just feel good.
Yeah, man.
You just feel good.
Mono Mulldrifter.
Mono Mulldrifter, yeah.
Versus Mono Gary.
So spam your Mulldrifter and then lay down your Overbeing of Myth, and then it's like, it's just massive.
What you gonna do?
And even if you don't have the thing that maxes out your hand size, that says there's no max hand size, for that turn, you still might have, 10 or 15 cards in your hand because you spammed a Mulldrifter a bunch, and if you already had one of these big guys out, then they just get bigger for that turn.
Yep.
So it's not even that bad. But anyways, you want those other things.
Oh, man. So let's go into... That's sort of like the overall gist of
That's
the
what we're
Dex
doing.
breakdown. That's how we're spamming it up, making that lunchtime lunch meat.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Did we mention this? Who's ever had a spam sandwich? Have people had that?
Oh, yeah, where you like slice it up as if it was a hamburger patty.
It's on the can, right? Like the image of spam is a sandwich.
They made a hamburger.
They made a hamburger. They made a spam burger.
with a sesame seed bun.
And I know that a spam burger exists, but like really, when's the last time you had a spam sandwich?
The only time I'm thinking I'm eating spam is if there's been an earthquake. And like I have some in an earthquake kit.
It's a post-apocalyptic meal.
Yeah, for sure. Man, post-apocalypse, I'm loving
Oh,
spam.
you're getting in on spam.
I'm loving that spam.
It's got
'Cause,
those. It's got salt.
Yeah,
It's got
man.
the old meats of the old world.
When I get tired of irradiated chicken,
Yes,
I'm going to move on
exactly.
to some fresh spam.
Yeah, fresh spam straight from the can.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, let's get to the 3 stars of the
3
deck.
stars of the deck, the cards that perform the best in these particular brews. Starting with my deck, star number 3, Visara the Dreadful. 3, black. 3 pips. It's a legendary Gorgon for a 5/5 with flying, and it has tap, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated.
Wow.
That's just amazing. So you're getting a 5/5 flying body who can do some damage on her own. You're getting 3 pips for your devotion. You're getting an ability to tap to destroy target creature to take care of your opponent's annoying stuff. And if you need it, you can just destroy Gary in a pinch.
Wow.
Which is a
yeah,
great
it's
way.
True. I guess it's a bit of a sack outlet also.
That's what brings it up to that's what gives it star status in this deck, because like it's just another way to be like, hey man, Gary, you got to get out of here. Okay, Visara, just tap and I'll go. It's like, there you go.
There's also the threat of activation. This sometimes just prevents people from playing a really great creature, let alone killing it once it's down.
Yeah.
Right? Like this, people would just be like, well, now I can't play my Shieldred or Elish Norn or whatever because it's just going to die right away.
It gonna die.
So Visara, it's always so oppressive when it comes down. It's always so good.
Oppression. Number 2 star of the deck, Strionic Resonator. It's a 2-mana artifact that, for the cost of 2 and a tap, copies target triggered ability you control. Gary's Enter the Battlefield ability is a triggered ability.
Yep.
It can be tricky to close out games just using Gary, right? On some of my test games, like, maybe your devotion isn't quite high enough. Maybe people keep wrathing the board and you're just like, oh, your devotion just hovering around 10. That's a lot of activations off of Gary to do this. But if we throw a Strionic Resonator on there for an extra 2 mana, we just double that. It's like, no problem. My 12 devotion turn into 24 of a Drain of Everyone. I'll take it.
I love it.
Yeah. second star of the deck for sure. Number 1 star, Wake the Dead.
Really?
I love this card. Here, I'll tell you why. Because they're going to stop you by wrathing the board, right? You're also milling a bunch of stuff.
Never mind, I already see what you're going for here.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's an instant. Black X. Cast Wake the Dead only during combat on an opponent's turn. Return X target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Sacrifice those creatures at the beginning of the next end step. So if we've got Gary in the graveyard, even if we have a full board of stuff and nobody's attacking us, and let's say a player is like, I'm going to draw my card. I'm going to think a second. And you know what? I'm just going to skip my turn. I was like, oh, wait a minute. During your combat step, which you cannot skip, I'm going to sacrifice all my creatures to my free sack outlet. I'm going to cast Wake the Dead for, let's say 10. Bring back my 10 most pippy creatures.
Most pippy.
Plus Gary. And now, for 10 creatures back, minimum 2 per. So average 2.5 pips per creature you're bringing back on this thing. So, you're getting 20 to 25 to 30 pips out there. There you go. It's over.
That's very good.
It's over.
And it's an instant speed. I see now why this card is so good.
It's the star
in this deck.
The star.
Wow.
Because if people have wrathed you, it's
Even
a grind.
better.
It's a grind to get your devotion back up there. But this card just says how much devotion can you afford? There you go.
Yeah. I love it.
If you look at it in those terms, basically Exsanguinate is black X to drain everyone for X. But every single generic you spend gets you 2 or 3 pips. It's like Exsanguinate for triple.
Yeah, it is. Wow. That's so good.
Yeah.
Wake the Dead.
Wake up.
I didn't see that coming.
Wake up.
There it is. Okay, let's take a look at the 3 stars for Mulldrifter. Number 3 star. Listen, this card could have been the 1st star, could have been the 2nd star. Whatever. If you got a deck with Mulldrifter in it, you're probably going to have a Deadeye Navigator in there somewhere. The classic bad boy of Commander. Everyone wants it banned, or everyone loves it so much. It's like Dennis Rodman on your own team. It's like everyone hates it except for you because you have it.
I don't see a reason to ban it.
No,
anyway.
I love it. Deadeye Navigator, 4 and 2 blue for a 5/5 with Soul Bond. You know this one. It's Soul Bonds with a creature, and then they each get 1 and a blue, blink it. Right?
Yeah.
And the great thing is, obviously, it's hard to remove either one of them once they're soul bond because you can just blink them out of the way and get out of the way of removal. Of course, we always say this, though, because we want to keep it out there, that instant speed removal, if someone tries to do this on their end step, is how you kill a Deadeye Navigator.
Wait for them to trigger the ability, and then while the thing is happening, you do it.
And you're going to do that in this deck. If we have mana open at someone's end step, we're going to do the Soul Bond, we're going to do the Deadeye Navigator ability, and we're going to do it to Mulldrifter. And guess what? It's going to leave us open to removal, but whatever, that's fine.
I guess people hate this card so much because, it's not ever present in our meta, but it's probably annoying to just always be facing down a Deadeye Navigator.
It is for sure. And it is difficult to remove it because if someone's very careful with it and they're just using this as sort of like a protection card, then it's going to be very good at that.
Yeah.
But, there certainly are ways to deal with it. Board Wrath also probably being the easiest one. So Deadeye Navigator is right up there, obviously. Another one, just a classic in this type of strategy, Writer Replication. We've talked about it enough on the show that you probably know all the words anyways. It's 2 blue with kicker 5. Put a token on that's a copy of a target creature. If it's kicked, you get 5 copies. You just do this to Mulldrifter, you're drawing 10 cards if you kicked it. It's really fantastic. Both for the spamming of creatures, the card draw ability. You can also do this to other creatures that aren't yours. It's just one of the best cards.
This card is the reason I considered going blue-black for the Gary spam.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Writer Replication on a Gary is
I think that's game
deadly.
right there.
Even just by itself, right?
Yeah, if you have only Gary, that's 2 black, and then if you Write of Replication it, so you put how many? 5 tokens. So that makes 6 Garys total hit the battle. So 5 Garys hit the battlefield to C6. So that's 12 devotion. So you're getting 12 devotion times 5.
So that's 60.
60. If you have...
But it's actually, isn't it more than that? No.
No, it's
you're right.
60.
Yeah.
If you have only Gary.
That's if you only have Gary
If
and
you
this card.
only have one...
That's 60 to everyone.
Yeah. And then you gain that much
As
life.
if you'll need to gain...
Yeah.
That
So
much
I
life.
thought of like what if I pick a commander that has blue in it and I only splash for this? That's the only thing that's blue in the
Wow.
whole deck. It would be worth it.
It would be worth it.
But then you lose Sidisi as your commander, and then you got to have other tutors, and then it just gets so much harder to find Gary.
And if you go to tappedout.net/user/commanders brew, you'll see in my deck that I do have a bunch of those tutors. Diabolic Tutor. I've got a Sentinel Flute in here because you need to find your Mulldrifter if you're gonna run something like this. I didn't talk about them here just because like we've talked about those types of cards a lot, and I think it's pretty obvious when you're building around a card that's in your 99, you'll need a lot of ways to go get it.
Yep.
So, anyways, we just wanted to highlight sort of the fun stuff that once you have it, you can really go off with. But the number 1 star is neither of these cards. Somehow the number 1 star is Psychosis Crawler. This card is so good. I remember in my Prime Speakers Agana deck, I remember when I found this card, I was like, oh, I want to build a deck around this one day. And as much as this is a Mulldrifter deck, it's also kind of a Psychosis Crawler deck. So Psychosis Crawler is 5 generic for an artifact with star. It's a horror. It's an artifact creature. And it says Psychosis Crawler's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. So it's another Morrow style creature. And it says, though, whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So if you get this guy down and then you're just spamming your Mulldrifters, like it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before they're dead, either from a huge Psychosis Crawler attack or just pinging for 1 damage every time you draw.
Which is very often.
Which is very often in this deck.
Wow.
And you're going to see a card in our Surprises and Discoveries, which is coming up next, that... Wow, is it ever good with Psychosis Crawler? Okay.
Would you spend 1 clone to just get
make
a second Psychosis
That's
Crawler?
the other thing. You can, if you clone a Psychosis Crawler, then, I mean, now you've got double. Now you're hitting 2 every time you draw a card. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another reason why this card works so well in a deck with a lot of clones and stuff in
Gimme.
it. Yeah. Gimme. Psychosis Crawler After Midnight. That's the song ABBA should have written, really. Anyways, okay, so let's get to surprises, discoveries. What is there anything you found in here that was new or interesting?
Not a full surprise, but just thinking about this card in a mono black deck, it's an excellent card. It's Helldozer. I don't know. I think we might have talked about this before or whatever, but at least it's been a while. I forgot about this card completely, but I was looking for Dense Pips. This is a 6-mana, 6/5 zombie giant for 3 black, 3 pips. And for the activated ability of black tap, you can destroy target land. If that land was non-basic, untap Helldozer.
Wow.
This is a certain style of play that's like kind of mean, and it just kind of like, you could basically just be like, oh, you got a dual land? Gone. You got a dual land? Gone. You? Gone. That's mean.
Yeah. This brings me back to the episode we had Sean Watson from Commander on. He was talking about how... And he talked about it on Commander, and also about how green sort of goes against the social contract in that its strength is ramping when mass land destruction is sort of frowned upon. Helldozer's right in the middle there, I think. I think Helldozer is actually a really great... I don't think this is mean.
Yeah, and it's all how you use it, right? Like, I would probably use this to be like, oh, that land... Like, if you, in your Mulldrifter deck, drop a Rogue's Passage, I'm just like, well, that's got to go.
Yeah,
I can't have you freely hitting through with these giant Morrows.
This is a great way to get rid of those utility lands, which I don't think that's mean at all. I think you should have ways to get rid of those lands.
Utility lands are fair game. I think it crosses into the mean territory where you're like, oh, you're playing 3 colors? Well, I'm just going to destroy every non-basic you have.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, come on, man.
It's meaner for sure.
Yeah.
But I still think it's an angle to keep someone off of a color. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. So anyway... and since you're playing mono black, you have access to a lot of black. And if I've got Crypt Gas going, for example, it would be easy if you want to devote a turn to this to be like, I'm going to kill 4 of your lands right now.
Ooh, that's targeted. But you know what? It's you'd have to destroy the non-basic ones if you want to do it all in one turn.
Yes,
though, right?
Yes. All but 1 would have to be non-basic, but that doesn't seem to be a problem.
I don't think it would be. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Helldozer. Cool. I'm pretty sure I included that in a mono black in our mono black build. I
Probably.
think. Just because it's a cool card, like,
Yeah.
and it's hard to cast in other decks because of the 3 black pips.
Yeah.
What did I find? Oh, okay. So I'll do this one first. So Identity Thief is a card that just came out in Eldritch Moon, and it's I at first I was like, oh, it's like another clone, but it's not. What it is it's 2 and 2 blue for an 0/3, and it says whenever Identity Thief attacks, you may exile another target non-token creature. If you do, Identity Thief becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. Return the exile card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So this one is more of an enter the battlefield abuser, while also becoming that creature. So you use the enter the battlefield ability when it re-enters, but you won't get it for Identity Thief, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So it's great with Mulldrifter because you
Yeah.
can turn it into a flying 2/2, I guess, whatever.
Sure.
But then you get to draw the 2 cards at the end of your turn. Or you can use it with any number of the other ETB guys, or you can just copy something really big and attack with it, right? You can make it become a Psychosis Crawler or
Oh yeah.
a, whatever else. But you probably won't do that because you would probably just attack with a normal one. But if you're worried about your original thing getting like removed in combat or anything like that, Identity Thief is a good way to sort of, well, okay, I'll attack with it, but I'm not actually attacking with it.
Yeah, worst case scenario, that's a free extra ETB.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a neat card. I think I'll probably include it in some decks that are sort of based around this sort of strategy.
I'll tell you this much. It is excellent in Eldritch Moon Limited.
Ah, really? You had it?
Yeah, because you just take away your opponent's best blocker while becoming it.
While becoming it, yeah.
And then it's like, what are you going to do?
You steal its identity.
And I mean, not to get too deep on limited strategy, but like I played this against the new werewolf deck with those like transform for mana abilities.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he transforms it into this like weird monstrosity. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm a copy of it. Exile it. It's going to come back as its original form.
Wow.
And you gotta pay again to transform it. It's great. It's great.
That is good. Wow. The other one that I wanted to talk about, and I think I heard of this a long time ago, and just thought of it again for this deck, it's a card called Mind Unbound.
Ooh.
I love this card. It's very interesting. It's an enchantment for 4 and 2 blue, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a lore counter on Mind Unbound. Then draw a card for each lore counter on Mind Unbound. So it's kind of like it has cumulative upkeep, draw a card. Right? That's sort of what it's like. So eventually, this is going to get...
You're going to deck yourself.
You're going to deck yourself eventually if you keep this out the whole game.
Because you're also drawn and like... It doesn't take long, right? We're back to like exponential, right? So like 2 turns, cool. You've drawn 3 cards.
Great.
4 turns, 6 cards.
Yeah.
5 turns, now you've drawn 10 cards.
Exactly. You got to be careful when you cast this card, right?
Yeah.
And, just there aren't a lot of ways... I didn't include a lot of ways for us to get rid of this card if we need to, which is fun. But you can.
No turning back.
You definitely can, and that can be something you have. But it's only 1 card, so I figured why build around that in that way? Let's just get it out there and see what happens. But with your Psychosis Crawlers, with your Maros, this is just going to give you so many cards in your hand.
Yeah.
And it's just going to make your things that much bigger that hopefully you can just win the game before you deck yourself with Mind Unbound.
Hopefully.
You
got about 6 turns.
I also thought about it's probably a good idea to throw in a few shuffle your graveyard into your library cards.
Oh, yeah.
With this deck, like
Elixir of Immortality.
Elixir of Immortality, that's the one. It definitely is, I think, worth it putting something like Bow of Nylea in, which is also an activated ability. You can put 4 on, I think, the bottom of your library or whatever.
If this was an ability you wanted badly enough, would you use one of the old Eldrazi Titans?
If I had one kicking around, I probably
would. Like a Kozilek?
But I don't. But like, you'd have to get it into your graveyard for that to happen.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's difficult.
That doesn't happen easily.
So, anyways, Mind Unbound is a very interesting and fun card, and for the YouTube viewers, there's Sarah, my wife. I'm a wife. She's a wife. So yeah, Mind Unbound. Play around with it. I think it's fun, and I think it's just good in a lot of decks actually. Especially if you have a way to get rid of it once you're thinking about decking yourself. All right.
If you like playing chicken,
Yes, exactly.
this is a great card.
Yeah. Or you know what? This might be very interesting to like donate to someone. Like put this in a Ziju deck, draw lots of cards off it, and then once you're drawing like 10 or 15, you just give it to someone else and watch them deck themselves with it.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
It gets out of hand, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. So that's everything. That's the deck.
Wow.
Those are both the decks, rather. So we're
Wow.
spamming our creatures, and we got. I think this is fun.
This is fun. I want to revisit this theme again for other things.
I think this is one of the first like ideas we had when we thought of the show. We
Was
thought of
it?
like imagine building around one like a card
Oh,
in your
yeah.
99 and using it like and to keep using it. Like I think we mentioned that.
You're ringing a bell. I bet you our original idea was just like, what if we built a fictional deck with a commander that was illegal, like a non-legendary commander?
Yeah.
But this is a way of doing it legally.
Legally, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not to mention, I didn't actually I forgot to mention this, but let's say you can't find your Mulldrifter for some reason, someone's exiled or something. Well, there's still lots of ways to draw cards and still continue with this strategy. So,
Yeah.
in my deck, so that's actually kind of a little bit of a safety net there. Do
Yeah.
you have that going, Gary?
Well, yeah, I mean, like if I can't spam, like I got a lot of heavy pip creatures are big demons with draw abilities and fight abilities, and not fight, but like, your opponent must sacrifice a creature or you draw a card, or it gets +1/+1, or all this stuff happens. So like, if I just got a table full of demons,
yeah, that's pretty good.
this deck's doing all right.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get to the budget report, we'll just talk a little bit about our sponsor, Wizard Tower. wizardtower.com. Of course, when you're ordering from there, you use Tower Brews. That's our coupon code. Save you 5% off orders $15 or more. They got the U.S. store now. The inventory out there is increasing every day.
Oh, every day.
The Canadian store also still has all the stuff you're looking for. They had a big Eldritch Moon pre-release. Of course, you can order stuff from there now, obviously. Free shipping on all orders over $15. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. This is just a sweet way to order cards.
Yeah, that's all singles. So yeah, check them out. wizardtower.com, the Wizard's Tower. If you're out in Ottawa, go to their physical store.
Yeah.
Have a draft. Sean, you did that.
I did.
And you had a good time there. I remember we talked about
I
it.
pulled an Avacyn.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Was that your first pick?
Absolutely. It was.
First pack?
Pack one, pick one.
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. Got destroyed round one by like basically mono green vampires. The guy to my
Mono
left.
green vampires?
Werewolves.
Oh, okay.
Guy was basically uncontested for werewolves, so it was just like I could not keep up.
Wow.
Could not keep up.
Well, I'm sure it was a great draft anyways at Wizard Tower. Okay, so now let's get to the budget report.
This is the part of the show where we take all of the cards and press them into some weird kind of meat. We bite off the chunks that taste good, and the lumpy cartilagey bits get thrown away.
The chunks.
The chunks.
The meat chunks. The
Spam.
cartilage bits.
Spam chunks.
Ew.
At the Spam headquarters, when they process the meat that they're about to press, all the stuff that gets thrown away from that process is probably the worst.
Yeah, that's got to be, right? Like that's
because they're for sure not
because
using.
they're taking the bottom of the barrel already, assumedly, right? Like
Yeah.
we think that.
Yeah, so you're gonna get like a lot of knuckles and a lot of cartilage and stuff that you just.
Yeah, it's gross. You're grossing out, Sarah.
Sorry, listeners. If you like to listen to podcasts while you prepare dinner or something like that,
Sorry about that.
we apologize.
Sorry about all the knuckle talk.
Ugh.
Ugh. Imagine
moving
biting
on.
down on a knuckle in the middle of your spam witch.
Yeah.
I guess you're just kind of asking for it, really, at that point. Anyways, Sean, what's your Gary deck looking like budget-wise?
Cool. Comes in at $46.23.
Decent.
Most expensive card in the deck is our commander, Sidisi Undead Vizier. Yeah. This card, I remember when it was like 50 cents.
I know, right?
When Cons was out.
And
but
I
like,
knew it wasn't going to hold that. I knew it was going to go
Yeah,
up.
because Runescarred Demon is wicked expensive now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like this will eventually get there.
Yeah.
This will eventually be Runescarred Demon. So like, man, buy
It's
as many
even
as
like
you got.
arguably better than Runescarred Demon in that it's also a sack outlet, which is good in most decks that are
Yeah.
running the color black, right?
It's cheaper.
It's why it's
cheaper
better than
cast.
Runescar Demon in yours, anyways.
Yeah, cool. So that's the most expensive card. Second most expensive card, Altar of Dementia. This is a great sack outlet. 2-mana artifact. Sacrifice a creature. Target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of his or her library to his or her graveyard.
Oh.
All the reasons we said Undercity Informant was
Yeah.
good, that makes this even better.
This is
'cause
even
it's
better.
Free.
Yeah.
It's free. It gives you no pips, but like Undercity gave you 1 pip, so like not a big deal. This is a keep, right? It's up to it's over $2 now, but like you gotta keep it, right? The conspiracy one's probably going to be your cheapest one. It's $3 now. So like
$3.
$3. They're 12 gumballs. This has gone up a lot. We used to brew with this for $1 and a gumball.
Undercity Informant, better budget wise, but obviously this is just better.
Yeah. So we're gonna keep this for sure. We're gonna keep this.
Right on.
We need a minimum number of sack outlets to make the deck work anyway.
Of course.
Cool. And third most expensive card is we're gonna go with Strionic Resonator. Yeah. It's a 2-mana artifact that copies a triggered ability. This is crazy, right? Imagine if you had Wake the Dead and this on the board, right? You just don't get 2 creatures. It's like, cool, I've put 20 pips on the board. I'm going to double it. Everyone takes 40. Like, that's a win right there.
Ew.
You could engineer this deck to just do those 2 things.
Wow.
Wake the Dead, Strionic Resonator. Also DC once for Gary. Also DC again for Wake the Dead. Also DC again for Strionic Resonator. And I'll just throw pips out until that happens.
That combo.
Right?
Wow.
Could do it.
Yep. Very good. For me, I got it just in under 50, $48.54. And the third most expensive card, the most expensive card in the deck is Overbeing of Myth, which ended up, I think, being just over $3, almost 4. But it is the best of, this style of creature where it's going to scale with your hand size. The fact that it also draws you cards off the top is really good.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's worth it. I've worked pretty hard to keep it in the deck, so
sure.
I think that shows you that it's worth keeping around. Second is Mimic Vat.
Ooh,
Mimic Vat's getting up there in price. It's around $3, same thing as the Altar. And this is just a commander. This is an excellent commander card. But I always find when you cast a Mimic Vat, it gets removed like pretty much right away. Like,
well, good.
It's a great card to use artifact removal on.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I almost feel like my favorite enchantments and my favorite artifacts are those ones that are just under the radar.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's always 1 or 2 more important things to kill.
Yeah, and this is not under the radar. People know about Mimic Vat. People know how good it is. In case you don't, though, Mimic Vat is the 3 generic artifact with imprint. So whenever something... this imprinting is whenever a non-token creature dies, you exile it sort of under Mimic Vat, and then you get to pay 3 and tap it to put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of whatever you exiled with Mimic Vat. It gets haste, and you have to exile it at the next end step. So basically,
TBs.
Yeah, if your Mulldrifter dies, you can put it under the old Mimic Vat.
This should absolutely be in my Grey Merchant spam deck. I missed this one. This is a big miss.
It's very, very good. Mimic Vat is awesome, and it creates tokens, and in those decks where you want to populate tokens, you won't have to lose them.
And you can change who's under it, right?
Exactly. So if another thing dies that's better than what you have under it, you take the one from exile, put it in your graveyard, and then you get to slide that other one.
Sure.
Slide that other one.
If I were using this in my Grey Merchant deck and I had Gary under it, he would no longer be in the graveyard to recur. So I would just wait until something else died. So get 1 more Gary, then put that new thing under the Mimic Vat, and then use my spells to recur the Gary who's back in the graveyard.
And here's one thing I'm always afraid with Mimic Vat with graveyard decks is like, okay, I want to put this one great creature on, but if someone then kills Mimic Vat, it's exiled for good.
Oh, yeah.
But if you have instant speed sack outlets, all you have to do is just sack another non-token creature in response to someone killing this, slide out that one you want in your graveyard, slide in that other one into the Mimic Vat, then that will be exiled. So there is ways to sort of manipulate it and get around it.
Another reason that you don't need to sack more than 1 at a time.
True. Love Mimic Vat. It's a great card. Got to keep it. And then the number 1 star, the number 1 star. The number 3 most expensive card in the deck is Deadeye Navigator, which surprised us when we were looking at this. I remember when this card was 50 cents, 75 cents.
I do too.
$1, and now it's $2.
Yeah.
So it's climbing up there, and I mean, we all know how good it is. We all know how much people love to talk about it. So, Deadeye Navigator, still worth it though at $2. No question about it. That's it.
That's the Dex.
That's the show. That's the Dex.
Ladies and gentlemen,
What do you think?
do you like Spam?
Yeah.
I do,
I now do.
when it's this kind.
I'm now in on Spam. It's salty.
Yeah. I
but-
love salt. I just love salt. And I love making my opponents salty by doing cool stuff.
Yeah,
and
and
they
if you
hate it.
throw Spam all over your opponents, they're going to be salty as well as like greasy, and
Greasy.
they're going to smell like ham.
I like one of those three things.
Smelling like ham?
Yep.
I love the smell of ham.
You know what? Cooked ham does smell pretty good.
Yeah, right? You get the
How
cloves
come-
and pineapple all over
How
it.
come ham cooking smells so different from bacon cooking?
Because bacon is cured and smoked. Something.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's cured. Well, not always smoked, but it's cured.
Okay.
Whereas ham, you can get a cured ham,
Would that smell like bacon?
maybe?
I don't know. I'm not well versed on my meat smells.
Yeah. Are there any ham farmers out there who can tell us about this in
Yeah.
more detail?
I do know that ham farming is a part-time job, so you probably have lots of time to play Magic.
Exactly, yeah.
In between farming ham.
Most ham farmers are Magic players. I mean, everybody knows that. They got the greatest crossover of
Yeah.
occupation to the
yeah,
game.
that's why there's that's Turn to Swine. They all love Turn to Swine.
Yeah, that's their number one card. Yeah,
Yeah. It's like it goes for like top trade dollars.
top trades, pushing up the cost of Turn to Swine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. So, of course, if you like these decks, go check them out on tappedout.net/user/commandersbrew.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this last episode. Just go to commandersbrew.com for everything.
Yeah, that's true. Go to our website.
Our website has everything. You might be watching this on the website or listening to it on that website, but if you haven't, go check it out. That's where you can find these decks linked to
All the links.
Tapped Out. You
Yeah.
can find links to the Patreon page there if you want to support the show by giving actual money. We've got perks on there too, so you can grab a T-shirt or a set of coasters or whatever.
Yeah, and if you take a look at our deck through our website or through Tapped Out or whatever, and you're like, hey man, what about this card? Tweet it at us.
Yep.
Right? At Commander's Brew, or individually, I'm at Sean Tabares.
And I'm at Andy Hullbone.
And you can send us a nice chunky message via email.
Gross.
Commander's
Don't
Brew,
send us a chunky message. I don't want no cartilage in my email.
commandersbrew@gmail.com.
Yeah, and rate us
Chunk
on
it up.
iTunes. Chunk it up.
Uh.
Rate us on iTunes and all that other stuff. It's all very helpful. We appreciate everything you guys do for us anyways, which is just listening to the show and
Yeah, man.
chatting at us once in a while through Twitter is really
We
fun.
appreciate you right now for what
Exactly.
you're doing right now, which is listening to us yammer about chunks.
Stay tuned also for our new podcast, Yammering About Chunks. That's coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, the next episode's on cottage cheese.
We're going to yammer so much about those chunks. And then our episode 2 will be about the movie Goonies. Where we yammer about chunk.
Oh man, we got so many episodes lined up for our
Yeah.
yammering about chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on YouTube. If you're listening to this, you can check us out on YouTube also. So yeah, anyways, we're available all over the place, really. Thanks for listening. We'll have a Commander's interview coming up, but until then, we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's the Commander interview portion of the show, where we interview a card or a creature or a commander from the decks we featured on the show. Sean actually couldn't be here because he is out going door to door and asking people if they need new windows in their houses. So that's cool. With me right now, though, it's kind of confusing because it's me.
Hey everybody, it's me, Andy Hull. As you know, Sean couldn't be here today because he's too busy going door to door for Windows. But with me, I'm going to be interviewing Andy Hull.
No. See, okay. So I know I'm me.
And I know I'm me.
No, I know I'm me. So you are the guest. So I'll be interviewing you for this portion. Okay. So now obviously you're not me because, like I said, I'm me. So can you explain what you are, please? It's
Sure.
spooky and terrifying what I'm seeing right now. But
No, I agree. It's weird for me to see myself because I know I'm me, Andy Hull, and here you are trying to lead the interview when you must be a clone of some kind because I'm for sure the original.
Clone, right? I get it now. That's what you are. You're a clone.
Oh, do you know a lot about clones because you are a clone?
No, I'm not a clone, but I mean, I know they're shapeshifters, right? That's the whole thing that they do.
No, I mean, methinks the lady doth protest too much.
See, I never
there
say
you
stuff
go.
like
There
that.
you-
I never say stuff
Oh.
like that. So this is already like maybe you're not a great clone. Maybe you're like the one that if it gets targeted by something, you have to sacrifice it.
I don't know what you're talking about because I'm a human being.
See, if Andy Hall does know what you're talking about, I just explained it. So what do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
No, listen. Okay, all right. Okay, so why don't you tell me a bit about what you did yesterday? We'll see if this lines up.
Well, sure. I mean, yesterday, recently married, so I woke up, felt the bliss of newlywed life, and looked around my
Okay,
house.
that is something I would say. Yes, the
There you
bliss
go.
of
There you go. That's
newlywed
something- So,
life.
no, what
Yeah.
about you? What about you? How you prove it? How do you prove
Okay.
the burden of proof lies with you?
No, the burden of proof lies with you.
I don't know who the burden of proof lies with.
What did I do? Yeah, okay. I woke up. I got a call from my agent, and then I talked to them for a bit, and then I came out here and I played that Star Wars Battlefront game for like way too long.
No, so easy to guess.
Yeah, that's
Anyone can say that. Any clone could say that about Andy Hall.
yeah, but you can. I can show you the login time on Xbox
Yeah,
Live
that
or
was
something.
me. That was me. That login time was me playing.
All you said is you woke up with newlywed bliss.
I didn't go through every little thing. All right, okay, let's do an Andy off.
Wait a second. Why are you interviewing me, anyways?
Because I'm the host of Commander's Brew, and traditionally we do a Commander interview at the end, and Andy Hall,
No.
will be
What?
interviewing. Yeah.
How did this turn around
What?
on
No,
me?
this is what we're doing. Okay.
Okay. First of all, just want to say real quick, you look good. Okay?
Well, thank you.
You're looking great.
You look great too.
You're looking real strong.
You're looking really great.
I like your hair. I like your shirt.
You've got very wide shoulders.
Oh, well, so do you.
Yes.
This is pretty great.
Yeah.
Anyways, why are we fighting so much? We should just be hanging out.
Yeah, man. We would be the ultimate team on Star Wars Battlefront.
This is a lot like when this is not even related to what we're doing right now, but when me and my friend Scott Yamamura, if anyone knows Space Janitors,
Yeah,
they know
he's
him.
the guy. I went to high school with him. He's from my
Okay,
old
sure,
sketch-
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
We always said that if we met each other, like if we met ourselves in real life, we'd always be like, "Pff, I don't like this guy. Who is this guy? Yeah, oh yeah, he's all right." And then high five him right away and just be best buddies with yourself.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what's happening.
Yeah, man, we're best buddies.
All right.
A couple of Andy Halls.
You want to go? You want to go grab some burgers?
Hell yeah! I
Hell
do.
yeah! All right.
All
Okay.
right,
This guy's
all right.
great. I
Let's
love
get
this
some
guy.
burgers.
All right, we're
All
done.
right,
We'll
all
see you
right.
guys next
We'll
week.
see you next week. Bye.